Lauren Boebert will carry her Glock to Congress. If you know anything about nutrition and exercise, you know that if you want strong bones, ligaments, tendons, muscles, hair, teeth, skin, nails, whatever, you need the 5 types of collagen in your diet. You can grab that through BioTrust. This stuff is awesome, guys. Click on the link in the description. If you don't know anything about it, you can watch a couple of the videos and get up to speed, but do yourself a favor and grab some.
I don't know if anybody's caught it, but Lynn Wood is just going crazy on Twitter, saying a whole bunch of nonsense, man. And people, just the fact that there's so many people in this guy's corner, and there's so many people going, just wait till the 6th. Don't worry. Hey, don't worry, Brian. Trump's got this thing all in hand. You know, he's going to bring out the military. I talk to conservatives, guys. This is conservatives, people who say they love America, who say they love the Second Amendment, who say they like the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and our freedom of speech and the right to be secure in your person's houses, papers, and effects. Conservatives are telling me, hey, just wait till Trump declares martial law. This is going to be great. And I'm like, wait a second. You're willing to have 100% of your constitutional rights that you say you love suspended so that Trump can declare martial law. And why do you want this? Why do you want this? I asked them. Well, you don't understand that Trump's got to do this so he can get rid of all the demon rats in Washington's district. They don't say Washington, they say Washington, D.C. So Trump's got to suspend 100% of your constitutional rights and my constitutional rights to drain the swamp. I don't think so. Doesn't sound like a good deal to me. Doesn't sound like a good plan to me. Anybody out there willing to give up your freedoms? Let's just put it that way. Forget about constitutional rights. Anybody willing to give up your freedoms so that Trump can declare martial law so that you can be free? It's just ridiculous. Guys, it's not going to go down like the QAnon, trust the plan people are saying it's going to go down. Do I hope? Do I even hope that it goes down the way the QAnon people say? No, because I don't want troops in my streets. I don't want troops in your streets. If you want to take a good look, a snapshot at what it looks like with martial law on American soil, you don't have to go back any further than Katrina. All those people in Louisiana where Katrina hit, they were subject to martial law. There were people going back to their own houses to grab their guns and fend off the looters, and the military was going up on their porches, getting those people, the owners of the houses, out of their house, putting them on the curb, putting handcuffs on them, and taking away their firearms. That's martial law. Martial law is a 100% suspension of all freedoms, and the people who are in control is that general or that admiral or whoever it is who's heading up that area in your locality. I do not want martial law. And these people are frothing at the mouth. Oh, man, but Trump's got to institute martial law. If he doesn't institute martial law, then we can't get rid of Nazi Pelosi. If he doesn't institute martial law, we can't drain the swamp. Well, if what it takes to drain the swamp is martial law, I'm not interested. Not interested at all. Those who give away a little essential liberty for a little politically promised security, and that's what Trump is promising. He's trying to promise you security. All you got to do is give up 100% of your rights, and it's going to be A-okay. Guys, if you give up anything to the government, you will never, ever get it back. Ever. Such BS. And I'm telling you, this is what conservatives are saying. These people who are reading the Lynn Wood garbage going out on Twitter, the people who are still hanging on to and believing in Trump, even though they got 6.2 trillion reasons and more now. What is it up to now? They got 6.2 trillion reasons not to trust Donald J. Trump. 6.2 reasons to understand that he's funding the military-industrial complex. He's strengthening the hand of Israel. A year ago, all the right, everybody on the right was against martial law. Now they're calling for it. It's lunacy. It's lunacy. I wanted to talk about this Lauren Boebert, who is now she's been elected to Congress from Colorado. Ironically, Rifle, Colorado. So she's got this brand new campaign ad where here's the deal. If you get elected to Congress And the whole reason you got elected because you think you can do good for the American people. You think you can get in there and you can affect change and secure more freedoms. You think you can become a part of the swamp and change the swamp? After 150 years, let's just say 107 years since the advent of the Federal Reserve, you got another thing coming, man. You got your head so far down in the sand, I don't even know what to tell you. So she comes on here and she goes, let me tell you why I will carry my Glock to Congress. If you sign on to Congress and you say that you're going to follow the rules of Washington, D.C., and then you come on the outside of that and say, you know what, I'm not following the rules. Guess what? You are. When you become, quote unquote, elected to Congress, you become a part of the Title 28, Section 3002, 15A corporate problem because you become a corporate employee who's basically sucking off the government teeth. This is basically political welfare. This is a welfare. You're looking at a welfare recipient right now. Base congressman makes $174,000 a year. That's over $85 an hour. Do you make $85 an hour? I don't. Most of the people that I know don't. But she's going to be making $85 an hour. She says, let me tell you why I will carry my Glock to Congress. Government does not get to tell me or my constituents how we are allowed to keep our families safe. I promise to always stand strong for our Second Amendment rights. That's commendable. That's commendable. You should be standing for people's rights to defend themselves. You should be doing that. But I want to show you the deception that she's automatically involved herself in right off the bat. See, politics is nothing more, nothing less than the clever and deceptive art of using euphemisms, lies, emotionalism, and fear-mongering in order to dupe average people into accepting and even demanding the chains of their own enslavement. And what she has involved herself in right off the bat with this campaign ad is a crafty and clever deception. Check this out and watch closely.
I'm Lauren Boebert, and I approve this message.
Cut. That's a wrap.
Okay, see that little that caption right there? Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C. She's giving the impression that she is taking a loaded Glock, putting it in her holster, walking out her door to Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C. And she's going to give the impression, deceptively so, that she's walking on the streets of Washington, D.C. with a loaded firearm.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm a newly elected congresswoman from Colorado. Even though I now work in one of the most liberal cities in America, I refuse to give up my rights.
And screw liberal and conservative. Screw liberal and conservative. She's going to be in one of the most tyrannical cities in America, and both liberals and conservatives are engaging in tyrannical activities against you and I. Screw this liberal and conservative thing, guys. We got to stop playing into the left versus right paradigm lie. They're Democrats and Republicans. They're both two wings of the same bird of prey, and I do mean bird of prey because it's always circling around looking for somebody else's freedoms to take, looking to suck somebody else's wealth away. She has become a political parasite saying that she's going to help you out while she's deceiving you into thinking that she's carrying a loaded firearm on the streets of Washington, D.C. And wait till you hear what the police chief for the Capitol Police says about this.
Rights, especially my Second Amendment rights.
I will carry my Glock to Congress. I will. Guess what? No, she won't. No, she won't. We're going to uncover some serious hypocrisy here. I'm really glad that Lauren Boebert did this commercial right here because it really unearths things that we really need to talk about.
I will carry my firearm in D.C. and in Congress. This caused outrage from Democrats and the media. Why? It's our job in Congress to defend your rights, including your Second Amendment, and that's exactly what I'm here to do.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. Every single one of these people put their left hand on a Bible, somewhere, somehow, some holy book, and raise their right hand to heaven and swear before quote unquote God and everybody they're going to uphold, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Part of that one intricate part of that is the Bill of Rights, and one intricate part of the Bill of Rights is the Second Amendment to have the right to be to carry a firearm, to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Background checks, that's an infringement. Putting high taxation on ammo so that you can't buy it, that's an infringement. Saying that you need to register your firearm, that's an infringement. So anybody who took that oath and doesn't abide by and stand behind and uphold that oath just to uphold the Second Amendment is your mortal enemy. They don't want you to be protected. See, the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights saying that all men are created equal. Well, they don't believe that in Congress. They believe that some people have the right to carry firearms while other people cannot carry firearms. And if they do try to carry firearms, especially on Capitol grounds, then you'll be arrested. You'll be punished. You'll be treated like the peasant that we think you are from their perspective.
In D.C., of all places, we should be encouraged to practice our rights. So forget what
I agree with that. I agree. We should be encouraged to practice our rights.
you hear in the fake news. Here are the real reasons why I choose to defend myself in our nation's capital. I'm a woman and a mother of 4. I choose to defend my family with all of the force the Constitution provides.
The Constitution does not provide any rights to anybody. I do not understand people who are constitutionalists taking this road like this. Where do your rights come from? Your rights come from the Bill of Rights. Guys, they were just itemizing things that they called self-evident. You have the right to be secure in your person's houses, papers, and effects. You have the right to carry a firearm, and that right shall not be infringed. You have a right to say whatever you want to. You don't have a right to swing your fist and bloody somebody's nose, but you have a right to do all these things. They were just, the people who framed the Constitution, who created the Constitution, were only itemizing things that they themselves called self-evident, unalienable rights. Things that you have when you're born just because you're a human being. You don't have these rights because there's a piece of parchment somewhere in the Smithsonian with fancy writing on it. That's not where you get your rights. I do not understand people who say this, because what if they modify the Second Amendment? I mean, it is called an amendment. It can be amended to actually say something other than it is, or they can add another amendment to it. Say let's say one day, we live long enough to see the 39th Amendment. They say the 39th Amendment, refer to Amendment 2. We're going to cancel that out right here. Your right can be infringed. Well, now you've lost your rights because you pinned all of your hopes and your rights and your freedoms and basically your life, because when you're talking about your freedoms, you're talking about your life. You pinned them all on something that a man can take away or give back to you. It's BS. It's all BS. You don't have rights because there's a constitutional amendment somewhere that says that your right shall not be infringed if you want to carry a firearm. Your rights come from the fact that you're a human being, and we all have the same rights. And that's why it highlights the ridiculousness of a human being coming and saying that human being right there doesn't have a right to do that because I say so, because I'm a special human being. Or maybe they think they're gods or something. Nobody has a right to take away your rights. Nobody has a right to infringe on your rights or your freedoms. Nobody has a higher claim over your life and property than you. Nobody has a right to initiate unjust force and violence on peaceful people who haven't done anything wrong. Everybody needs to be abiding by the golden rule. And at the very point where somebody doesn't abide by the golden rule, then just punishment should come. When injustice is happening to one man anywhere, injustice is happening to all men everywhere. And we all need to get together, get our heads out of our collective left versus right paradigm asses and understand what really needs to be happening in this country. So she's sitting here saying that I will carry my Glock to Congress. No, you're not. Somebody who has more power than you or think they have more power than you has something to say about that. Should she be able to walk down the streets of Washington, D.C. and walk into the halls of Congress armed with whatever she wants to be armed with? Absolutely. Absolutely. But she's going into the belly of the beast, and she's going to be completely digested by their evil stomach acids.
D.C. is one of the top 10 most dangerous cities in our country.
And you know why? Because people who obey the laws are disarmed. What do they call them? Law abiders. Guys, don't ever let anybody call you a law abider. It is not virtuous to be a law abider. That means that you're just going to obey politicians. Do you think politicians should be trusted? politicians who are the ones who make the laws, and a law is nothing more, nothing less than the opinions of politicians backed by the threat of force. So if you're saying you're a law abider, you're basically saying you're a politician abider. You're a politician obeyer.
Homicide rates and violent crimes are skyrocketing here. Being a member of Congress is pretty basic. I don't go to work in a motorcade or armored car. I don't get police escorts everywhere I go. I walk to my office every morning by myself. So as a 5-foot-tall, 100-pound woman, I choose to protect myself legally because I am.
Okay, so here's another place where she deceives you. So she's clearly walking on what looks like the streets of Washington, D.C. You guys have been there. These buildings look familiar to me. The shadow looks real. It doesn't look like this is green screened, even though in the very beginning she was at a green screen. But look what they say. Look what they do.
Because
Look, they superimpose this firearm on her hip as she's walking down the streets of Washington, D.C. And the sad part about this is the Washington compost pile, which we all know is a compost pile, just like CNN and MSLSD, called her on this. And one of her aides said, no, she was indeed not walking down the streets of Washington, D.C. armed. Because if she admitted she was, she would have probably gotten in trouble. Remember Adam Kokesh? Adam Kokesh loaded a 12-gauge shotgun in Capitol or Liberty Plaza, and he got thrown into a cage. Should Adam Kokesh have been able to load that? Absolutely. And if the Capitol Police were obeying and honoring their oath, they wouldn't have done anything to Adam Kokesh. And they wouldn't do anything to this woman right here. But she's scared. She doesn't want people to know whether she did or didn't. I don't know. But her aide said she wasn't carrying the firearm. She should be able to. But if Capitol Police found out that you were doing it, guess what? You're going to get investigated. You're probably going to get a knock at your door from some armed agent of the state from Washington's District of Criminals. And they'll probably charge you and punish you. So she had to get her ass out of the sling on that one, even though she's deceiving her viewers into thinking she's actually walking down the streets of Washington, D.C., armed with a loaded Glock.
I am my best security. One of the challenges of working in D.C. is people here don't understand how we live in real America. The Second Amendment
That's true.
is part of our lives. Gun ownership is cherished, and it makes our little towns safer. As a young woman,
That's absolutely true. Yes, it does. An armed society is a polite society. When you start taking firearms away from societies and people start complying with those rules, then you have dangerous cities like she pointed out. Washington, D.C. is one of the 10 most dangerous cities in the United States.
working late nights at a restaurant, I learned real fast how important.
No, I thought it was there's some of this that's green screen. There's some of this that's green screened, but she and her aides admitted that she actually was walking down the streets of Washington, D.C. Some of this is not green screened.
It is to defend myself. After a violent incident outside my business, I took advantage of Colorado's open carry laws and began to carry at work. My waitresses asked if they could open carry too. And now Shooter's Grill has mandatory firearm training and target practice available for my staff. Most of
See, I did a video on this about 2 or 3 years ago. Shooter's Bar and Grill, awesome concept. You got all the waitresses carrying firearms. There's an armed society is a polite society, and Shooter's Grill took off. I totally applaud these people and commend them for doing that. But what this lady's doing right here is she's making claims that she cannot back up. I will carry to Congress. Oh, well, what if somebody else has something to say about that? Guess what? You won't. You won't. You're not going to get through security in the Capitol grounds when you try to go into the rotunda or whatever that the Capitol building. They're not going to let you in. Second thing she's making, she's suggesting that she's actually carrying armed when she says she's not. So she's becoming a liar. But, of course, what do you expect from a politician? She's becoming a politician.
are young women. Educated, law-abiding gun owners are the safest people in America to be around. So when anyone comes in to limit the rights and safety of my family, I'll tell them exactly what this mom thinks. I am here to say, hell no, you're not. I have 4 children. I'm 5'0", 100 pounds. Cannot really defend.
She's the one right there. This is Beta Male O'Rourke right here. This is, hell yeah, we're going to take your AR-15s and your AK-47s, O'Rourke. And she's addressing him in this little speech right here as he's trying to give his speech.
Myself with a fist. All you're going to do is restrict law-abiding citizens like myself. So this is...
And that's true. That's true. Who gets victimized by the government when you start obeying the government? Law abiders. abiding by the law and being an order follower is not a virtue.
This is why I choose to defend myself and my family. Not only is it my right, but it's a right I was sent here to protect from Rifle, Colorado. So if you see me in D.C., say hi. You're safe with me.
So that's it. And here's the Politico article. D.C. police to contact GOP Representative Boebert about plans to bring a Glock to work. Says that congressman will be subjected to the same penalties as anyone else that's caught on the D.C. streets carrying a firearm, says Police Chief Robert Conte III. We know this guy, not only does he hate the Second Amendment, guys, not only does he hate your ability, whether you're a man, woman, child, elderly, it doesn't matter what class of individual you are. Not only does he hate your Second Amendment rights, he hates you. And everybody who wants to take that right away from you, that freedom to protect yourself by whatever means you want, anybody who's against that is your mortal enemy. This police chief, Robert Conte III, is against. He took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and then he turned right around and became the very domestic enemy that he swore to protect you and me from. And how appropriate. He's the police chief for Washington, D.C. Police, Capitol Police Department. So he says again, the congresswoman will be subject to the same penalties as anyone else that's caught taking advantage of the Second Amendment. Might as well say that. And hey, if anybody's in my town taking advantage of the Second Amendment and living as a free man or a free woman, well, they're going to be punished. That's a tyrant. That is a tyrant. It's amazing. I actually love this Politico article because it brings out a whole bunch of stuff we got to be talking about. Washington, D.C.'s police chief said Monday he intends to reach out to GOP Representative Lauren Boebert about her intention to carry a Glock handgun in the city, which has strict limits on carrying concealed firearms. Yeah, absolutely it has strict limits. Why? Because they don't care about the Second Amendment. They don't care about your right to protect yourself. Chief Robert Conte III, when asked during a press conference about the newly elected Colorado lawmaker's plan to carry a gun to the Capitol, said he wants to ensure that, quote, she is aware of what the laws of the District of Columbia are. Because in Conte's mind, the laws of the District of Columbia supersede what's supposed to be the supreme law of the land. Give me a frickin' break, man. Amazing, man. I love the fact that Politico did this and got him on record saying that. If indeed he said this, because you got to take Politico and Washington Compost Pile and the New York Slimes and the Communist News Network all with a grain of salt. Conte said that congresswoman will be subject to the same penalties as anyone else caught in D.C. streets carrying a firearm. Boebert has made no secret of her intent to bring a handgun to the Capitol complex where lawmakers, look at this. Here's what I wanted to show you what they brought out. Where lawmakers are exempt from otherwise strict prohibitions on firearms so long as they are stored in the members' offices and transported safely and unloaded. What's the point of having a firearm on your hip so that you can defend yourself from any and all attackers if that firearm is unloaded? All you got is a heavy paperweight you're carrying around in your pocket or in your holster. So long as they're stored in members' offices. So basically what I want to show you here is lawmakers are above the law because they're exempt from the laws they make for you. Plus, a lot of these lawmakers have their own security detail. So while you have to go unarmed and you can't protect your family, they can walk around in the streets of Washington, D.C. or wherever with their entourage who's probably heavily armed. They have security details, but they don't want you to have security details. I bet you a lot of those security details have fully automatic firearms, which were outlawed way back when. But lawmakers are exempt from them because they're special people. Democrats considered a change to the rules that would have barred even members of Congress from bringing guns to the Capitol, but the rules package introduced by House leaders last week included no change to the policy. And they're like, oh, darn. The Democrats are going, oh, darn. But they can still have firearms. Yeah, I bet they didn't try to get that bill passed too hard. The current guidelines for weapons in the Capitol is set by the Capitol Police Board. Oh, really? What? So Washington, D.C. isn't part of the United States? Isn't part of American soil? The current guidelines for weapons in the Capitol is set by the Capitol Police, which includes the Sergeant at Arms of the House and Senate, the architect of the Capitol. That's strange. The architect of the Capitol, aren't those guys dead? And the Chief of Police. Lawmakers have been exempt by the board from the restrictions for decades. So what they are saying is lawmakers are better than you. We will afford them more rights than we're affording you, more freedoms for them, less for you. So not only do you get to siphon off money from us, but they get to live on a whole new plane, a whole different plane, the freedom plane. Boebert drew attention to her plans for carrying a weapon on Sunday when she posted a video that we just saw declaring her intention to carry a gun in Congress. She says, I'm just going to reiterate what she says. Government does not get to tell me or my constituents how we are allowed to keep our families safe. Guess what? Government is going to tell her, and she ain't going to be carrying that firearm unless it's unloaded. You know, she gets the transportation clause. She gets the exemption clause because now she's a congresswoman. She gets those little perks that none of the rest of us get because she's a special person. Boebert, who ran a gun-themed restaurant called Shooters before her bid for Congress, has made the Second Amendment rights a centerpiece of her platform. A spokesman for Boebert on Monday said, quote, she will comply with all applicable firearms and regulations. Guess what? If there's one law, just one, and from what I've understand, there's 20,000 federal laws against firearms in the United States. 20,000. But if there's just one law against the Second Amendment, guess what that's called? That's right, an infringement. But she's going to comply with all applicable firearms and regulations. What a great example for the rest of us. We're going to comply. And I'm sure if she has good intentions, they'll still make her comply, you know. Good intentions will always be pleaded for every assumption of authority. And that's not going to be any different for Lauren Boebert, who gave the strong impression that she was carrying a loaded firearm on Capitol grounds. Check this out. This is from the Washington Compost pile. If what they say is true, she's a hypocrite. Congresswoman Boebert is a fierce advocate for the Second Amendment. As such, will comply with all applicable firearm laws and regulations, a spokesman for her said. Asked about the ad on Monday. Look at this. A spokesman for Boebert. If this is true, this is just shameful. A spokesman for Boebert said she was not carrying the gun throughout the video shoot, despite the opening scene and the scene where they superimpose a gun on her hip. D.C. gun laws do not recognize concealed carry licenses. Why? Because that's tyranny country. The reason they don't recognize any of this stuff is because they're tyrants. D.C. gun laws do not recognize concealed carry license from other states, and non-residents are prohibited from carrying firearms unless they register them with D.C. police. You got to register your firearms with D.C. police. How's that? How's that for you?
While we have time and it still retains some of its perceived value, maybe it'd be a good idea to convert your worthless fiat into valuable, storable food. Don't be the one who waits till the food riots start happening. You don't want to be fighting panicking people in the store over that last jar of peanut butter. At Prepare with High Impact Flicks, you can get up to 3 air and watertight gasket sealed ammo cans, each filled with a 4-week emergency supply. 7 food varieties, 2,000 calories a day, 284 servings, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and each meal comes in a resealable, heavy-duty 4-layered pouch. And it's got a 25-year shelf life. Every order of a 4-week supply gets you $100 off plus free shipping. Here's how simple it is to make. I'm going to cook up some Granny's home-style potato soup. People are going to think I'm a culinary hero. You open the pouch, boil 4.5 cups of water, stir the contents, simmer on low heat for 15 to 20 minutes, take it off the heat, then let it set for 2 to 3 minutes before you serve it up.
Man, this stuff's so good. People are going to think Granny stopped by and filled your kitchen with a whole bunch of love.
Well, if Granny does stop by, she's going to fill your behind with a whole bunch of buckshot if you keep talking with your mouth full. Wipe your dang beard off. It's embarrassing. So maybe convert some of your worthless fiat into valuable food while you still can. Order now and get $100 off of up to 3 4-week emergency food supplies at preparewithhighimpactflix.com. The link is in the description.